Hello, my lovely rainbows. I'm happy to be here with you today. Let's find some magic and bring it with us to wherever you want to sit. We'll settle down. Feel your bottom. It feels kind of heavy. So get yourself in place and crisscross applesauce. I'd like to teach you a new breathing technique, and it's called heart breathing. And you take your hands and you cross them, and then you place them on your chest and you relax your elbows so that they're pointing to the ground. And when we breathe in and out, we can feel our breath as our hands on our chest will rise and fall, just like our breath. So when we go in, it goes up. Out, it goes down. Let's take 5 deep breaths together. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Now you can keep your hands on your chest if you want to while we do the chime, or you can let your hands go and relax them to your side. We're going to gently close our eyes if you want, and if you don't, then you can keep them open and we'll listen to the chime. And when it stops, we will open our eyes. Ready? Wow, you are good. We are good. We are capable. All right. Now, I would like to do the days of the week. Are you ready? Hands together. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Can you tell me what day it is today? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Wow, you guys are smart. It's Friday. Yay! And if we look out the window, we can tell what kind of weather it is. What do you think? Let's sing this song. What's the weather like today? Like today, like today. What's the weather like today? On this Friday. You're right. You're so smart. You can tell me what the weather is like. Okay. You know what? I went on a walk yesterday. And on my walk, I had an idea to read a very special story. Because on my walk, I saw some houses that all looked the same. And I also noticed some birdhouses too that looked similar. So, with that in mind, I'm going to read you this story called The Big Orange Splot. And it's written by Daniel Manus Pinkwater. That's his name. And he also drew the pictures to his story, or the illustration. And this is the first page. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not the first page. This is the first page. Silly me. Mr. Plumbeam lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way. So did everybody else on Mr. Plumbeam's street. "This is a neat street," they would say. Then, one day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbeam's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can. No one knows why. Right over Plumbeam's house. Uh-oh. What do you think happened? Splot. It made a big orange splot on Mr. Plumbeam's house. "Oh, too bad," everyone said. "Mr. Plumbeam will have to paint his house again." "I suppose I will," said Mr. Plumbeam. But he didn't paint his house right away. He looked at the big orange splot for a long time. Then he went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange splot. Someone said, "Mr. Plumbeam, we wish you'd get around to painting your house." "Okay," said Mr. Plumbeam. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler. When the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange splot was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same, but Mr. Plumbeam's house was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. There was the big orange splot, and there were little orange spots. There were stripes, there were pictures of elephants and lions and girls and steam shovels. The people said, "Ha! Plumbeam has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stacker, and dropped his stopper." They went away muttering, Well, that day, Mr. Plumbeam bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof, and he painted a clock on the tower. Well, the next day, the people said, "Plumbeam has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, and slipped his hawser." They decided they would pretend not to notice. That very night, Mr. Plumbeam got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbeam swinging in a hammock. Between two palm trees, they saw an alligator lying in the grass. And Mr. Plumbeam was drinking lemonade. There he is. "Plumbeam has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbeam, what have you done to your house?" the people shouted. "My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams," Mr. Plumbeam said. Well, the people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Mr. Plumbeam to go and have a talk with him. Tell him that we all liked it here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours, so we can have a neat street. The man went to see Plumbeam that evening. They sat under the palm tree, drinking lemonade, and talking all night long. I wonder what they talked about. What do you think? Any ideas? Well, early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. When the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbeam. "What have you done to your house?" they shouted at the man. "My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams," said the man, who had always loved ships. "He's just like Plumbeam," the people said. "He's got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle." Then one by one they went to see Mr. Plumbeam late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbeam's house, the very next day, that person would set about changing his or her own house to fit their dreams. They do look different, don't they? Those are neat dreams they're having. Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbeam and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." Then all the people would say, "Our street is like us, and we are it. Our street is where we like to be, and it looks like all our dreams." You're right. So that makes me think, gee, if you could paint your house to look like all your dreams, what would that look like? Give yourself a little moment to think about that, and I'm going to ask you to tell me. Ella, Lila, Emma, Hennick, Harrison, Everett, Ava, Elle, Cecily, Aiden, Sasha, Avila, Seiji. Those are all great ideas. And before I say goodbye, I would like you to pretend that you have magic arms. And your arms have now become the arms of Nati, the arms of Jen, the arms of Kelly, the arms of Amanda, and the arms of Searcha. So your arms are all of your teachers, okay? Now I want you to give yourself a big, big hug. And we're going to take, 5 big breaths. And then that's the love and the magic that your teachers want you to have. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We love you. And we know that you love yourselves too. That's most important. And have a great weekend. And we will hopefully see you soon. Bye.